setting it to absolute ribbon mode and pulling a flaw through the gauge will result in this. So I'm going to go ahead and set this. Pulling the flaw through. I'll show up like that. Now if I switch it over to relative, it shows up to be a lot more, because it's going to be based off the relative amount off the previous average, the relative average of the part. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this back to 0 flaws, and then we'll move the part in and out. So do that about 3 times again, and you can see we got 79 faults and necks compared to just 5 lumps, which is going to be way too sensitive for what you guys want, I believe. The other options that we have are we can change this to be based off of like the combined or separate versions. So to define these areas, like absolute is based off of just a raw value, like putting a diameter, a nominal value in there, and then the thresholds are adding and subtracting to that. The relative mode is like having a running average of whatever the average diameter was, and then adding and subtracting those thresholds for the lump and neck limits. So there's also things here, the combined and the separate version. So we can use the same combined tolerances that are for the tolerance checking, or separate if we want to separate out the lump and neck thresholds and make them different than the over-under tolerance thresholds. So, and then lastly we have like the relative mode, which will look at every axis individual. So look at X and Y plane, or the X, the 4 axis, each one individually. So what I recommend is doing the absolute mode, ribbon mode, because we have 4 axes to look at, so might as well utilize that. So what we're going to do is look at all 4 axes independently. We're going to use an absolute value based off our nominal value, and then we'll be putting a lump and neck threshold in there for each one. So that way you can actually put in greater than or less than whatever your tolerance is, but you don't want those lumps or necks to exceed any certain amount, and if they do, then we will detect those. And you can see, once again, I'll say okay, so we're putting those values in there. We'll move the part up and down in there again, once, twice, up, down, down.